Episode 1, The Loose Floorboard. Ellie's boots scuff the worn hardwood of her new dorm room, a cramped box on the third floor of West Haven Hall at Crestwood College. It's late August, and the air smells like stale beer and cheap pine cleaner. She's 18, fresh out of a nowhere town in Ohio, hauling a duffel bag stuffed with thrift store jeans and a chipped coffee mug her mom swore was lucky. The room's a relic: peeling paint, a lumpy mattress, and a desk that wobbles if you breathe on it. She drops her bag, flops onto the bed, and stares at the ceiling, where a water stain looks vaguely like a screaming face. College, she thinks. Freedom. Or at least a shot at it. Her roommate hasn't shown up yet, so Ellie's alone with the hum of a dying fan and the distant thump of someone's bass-heavy playlist. She's restless, the kind of antsy that makes your skin itch, so she starts unpacking. Socks in the drawer, books on the shelf, a cracked phone charger plugged into the wall. That's when she hears it. A creak. Not the bed, not the fan, but something under her feet. She shifts her weight, and there it is again, sharper, like the floor's complaining. Curious, she kneels, running her fingers along the boards. One's loose, sticking up just enough to catch her nail. She pries at it with her keys, and it pops free with a groan, revealing a jagged hole. Below, there's darkness. Not just shadow, but the kind that swallows light, thick and heavy. Ellie grabs her phone, switches on the flashlight, and peers in. A narrow shaft drops down, maybe 10 feet, with rusted metal rungs bolted to the wall. A tunnel. Her pulse kicks up, half thrilled, half freaked. She's not claustrophobic, but this feels wrong, like she's trespassing on something that doesn't want her there. Still, she's never been good at leaving shit alone. She ties her hair back, takes a breath, and climbs down. The air turns cold fast, damp against her skin, smelling of earth and something sour she can't place. Her sneakers hit dirt, and she swings the light around. The tunnel stretches ahead, low and tight, walls rough with old brick. She ducks, moving forward, heart thudding loud enough to drown out the drip-drip of water somewhere far off. After maybe 20 feet, it opens into a small room, barely bigger than a closet. She straightens up, and that's when she sees them. Photos. Dozens of them, pinned to the walls in crooked rows. Polaroids, black and whites, faded color shots, all women, all young. Some smile, some stare blankly, but they've got that same dorm room backdrop, her dorm room. Her stomach twists. She steps closer, light trembling in her hand. Names are scrawled beneath each one in shaky ink: Jennifer, 1972. Mary, 1985. Karen, 2003. She flips one over. On the back, in red pen, died October 12, 1972. Her breath catches. She checks another. Died March 3, 1985. Every photo's the same. A name, a year, a death date. Ellie's mouth goes dry. These are the girls who lived in her room before her, and they're all dead. She scans the walls, dread curling tight in her chest, until she spots it. Bottom row, third from the left. Her own face stares back, a grainy shot from move-in day, her grinning like an idiot with her duffel slung over her shoulder. She yanks it off the wall, hands shaking. On the back, in that same red scrawl, Ellie. Died December 15, 2025. Her phone slips, clattering to the dirt. December 15. That's 3 months from now. She's 18, not even unpacked, and some psycho's already got her obituary written. She scrambles to pick up the phone, light bouncing wild across the room. The dates on the other photos: some girls died at 19, some at 20, none past 22. What the hell is this? A prank? A threat? Her mind races, but her gut's screaming it's more than that. This tunnel, these pictures, they're too real, too old. She shoves her photo in her pocket, chest heaving, and stumbles back toward the ladder. Halfway up, she freezes. A sound echoes from deeper in the tunnel, past the photo room. A faint, rhythmic scratching, like nails on stone. It's slow, deliberate, getting closer. Ellie's throat locks up. She hauls herself out, slams the floorboard back in place, and drags her desk over it, legs shaking so bad she can barely stand. She's safe, she tells herself. It's just a creepy basement thing. But her photo's still crumpled in her fist, and that date, December 15th, burns into her skull. She sits there, staring at the desk, listening to her own ragged breathing. The scratching's gone, but the silence feels worse, like it's waiting. She doesn't know what the tunnel is, or why her face is on that wall, but one thing's crystal clear: whatever's down there knows she's here. And it's not done with her yet. Episode 2, The Locked Box. Ellie doesn't sleep. How could she, with that photo crumpled under her pillow and the floorboard creaking every time she shifts her weight? The desk still shoved over the hole, but it feels flimsy, like a kid hiding under a blanket from the monster in the closet. Her phone says it's 6 in the morning, the sky outside her window bruising purple with dawn. She's got orientation in 3 hours, but all she can think about is that tunnel, those faces, her name in red ink. December 15th. It's March 26th now, which gives her, 264 days? She's not great at math, but she's damn sure that's not enough. The dorm's quiet, just the occasional shuffle of someone dragging luggage down the hall. Ellie's roommate's supposed to arrive today, and she's dreading it. How do you play normal when you've got a death sentence stashed in your pocket? She pulls the photo out again, smoothing it flat. It's definitely her, same messy ponytail, same chipped tooth she's too stubborn to fix. The handwriting's shaky, like whoever wrote it was pissed off or scared. She flips it over, stares at the date, and her stomach lurches. She needs answers, but she's not dumb enough to go back down there alone. Not after that scratching. A key rattles in the lock, and the door swings open. In stumbles a girl with a neon green backpack and a tangle of curly hair, swearing under her breath as she trips over a suitcase. Ellie shoves the photo under her blanket, forcing a smile. The girl looks up, grins, and sticks out a hand. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she says, voice bright despite the dark circles under her eyes. "Just drove 6 hours from Philly, and I'm already regretting every life choice that led me here." Ellie laughs, surprised at how easy it feels. "I'm Ellie," she says. "Welcome to the shittiest room on campus." Sarah flops onto the other bed, kicking off her sneakers. "Oh, I've lived in worse," she says. "Trust me." They click fast, trading stories about hometowns and shitty high school exes. Sarah is loud, funny, the kind of person who fills a room without trying. Ellie almost forgets the tunnel, but it's there, gnawing at the back of her skull. She's halfway through a rant about her mom's obsession with thrift stores when Sarah cuts in. "Hey, what's with the desk?" she asks, nodding at it. "You barricading something?" Ellie freezes, then shrugs. Just testing the feng shui," she lies, but Sarah's already squinting at her, suspicious. Screw it. Ellie's never been good at secrets, and she needs someone else to tell her she's not losing it. "Okay, look," she says, voice dropping. "There's something under the floor." Sarah's eyebrows shoot up. "Like, a rat?" she asks. Ellie shakes her head. "No, like a tunnel. With photos. And death dates." Sarah stares, then bursts out laughing. "You're screwing with me, right?" she says. "Freshman hazing?" But Ellie's face stays dead serious, and Sarah's grin fades. "You're not kidding," she mutters. "Shit, okay. Show me." Ellie hesitates, but Sarah's already dragging the desk aside, peering at the loose board. "Holy hell, you weren't lying," she says, voice hushed. She grabs her phone, flips on the flashlight, and before Ellie can stop her, she's climbing down. "Wait," Ellie hisses, but Sarah's gone, her light bobbing in the dark. Ellie curses, grabs her own phone, and follows. The tunnel's just as cold, just as wrong, but having Sarah there makes it less suffocating. They reach the photo room, and Sarah sucks in a breath. "What the actual fuck?" she whispers, running her light over the walls. Ellie points at her spot, now empty. That's where mine was, she says. Dated December 15th. Sarah spins to her, eyes wide. Yours? She says. Like, you're on the list? Ellie nods, pulling the photo from her pocket. Sarah snatches it, studies it, then hands it back, hands trembling. This is messed up, she says. We need to get out of here. But Ellie's not ready to run. Not yet. She sweeps her light around, and it catches something new, a small metal box tucked in the corner, rusted shut with a padlock. She kneels, tugging at it, but it's stuck. Sarah crouches beside her. What's that? She asks. Ellie shakes her head. No clue, she says. But it's locked for a reason. They pry at it with a loose brick, the clang echoing too loud in the tight space. Finally, the lid pops open, spilling dust and a single folded note. Ellie unfolds it, her light shaking. Scrawled in faded ink, the price is paid in silence. Sarah snorts. Cryptic much? She says, but her voice wavers. Ellie stares at the words, a chill sinking into her bones. Silence about what? She mutters. Before Sarah can answer, a shadow flickers across the wall. They both freeze. Did you see that? Sarah whispers. Ellie nods, throat tight. It moved, fast and sharp, like someone darted past. But they're alone. Aren't they? Please pause the video and give it a like, Ellie's voice cuts in, raw and unsteady. I'd be so grateful for your comment too. She doesn't mean to say it, it just slips out, a plea to the universe. Sarah grabs her arm. We're leaving, she says, firm. Now. They scramble back to the ladder, hearts pounding, and haul themselves up. Ellie slams the board down, and they shove the desk back, panting. Sarah is pale, staring at the floor. That wasn't a trick of the light, she says. Something's down there. Ellie nods, clutching the note. And it knows we found this, she says. Whatever this is. Episode 3, The Falling Photo. Ellie's hands won't stop shaking. She's sitting on her bed, the note from the tunnel crumpled in her fist, while Sarah paces the room like a caged animal. It's barely 8 in the morning, but the dorm feels like it's holding its breath, the air thick with something Ellie can't name. Sarah stops, spins to her, eyes wild. Okay, Ellie, she says, voice sharp. We need to figure this out. That tunnel, those photos, that creepy-ass note, what the hell are we dealing with? Ellie shrugs, helpless. I don't know, she mutters. But my name's on a wall down there, and I'm not waiting to find out if it's a countdown. Sarah nods, chewing her lip. Right, she says. We're not cops or ghost hunters, but we've got Google. Let's start with the names. Ellie pulls out her phone, fingers clumsy as she flips through the photos she snapped before they bolted. Jennifer, 1972. Mary, 1985. Karen, 2003. She types the first one into a search bar, Jennifer Crestwood College, and hits enter. The screen loads slow, campus Wi-Fi choking on itself, but then it's there, an obituary. Jennifer Lynn Hayes, 19, died October 12, 1972. Car accident. Ellie's stomach drops. She shows Sarah, who leans in, face paling. Holy shit, she whispers. It's real. They dig deeper. Mary's next, Mary Elizabeth Cole, 20, found drowned in a campus pond, March 3, 1985. Karen, 21, heart attack in her sleep, 2003. Every name matches a death, every date lines up. Ellie's voice cracks as she reads aloud. They all lived here, she says. In this room. And they're all dead before 22. Sarah slumps onto her bed, rubbing her temples. This isn't random, she says. It's a pattern. But why you? Why now? Ellie doesn't answer. She's staring at her own photo, December 15th burning into her brain. Orientation's a blur. Ellie sits through icebreakers and campus tours, nodding at the right times, but her head's underground, replaying that shadow, that scratching. Sarah sticks close, cracking jokes to hide her own nerves, but Ellie catches her glancing at the floor too often. By noon, they're free, and Ellie's itching to do something, anything, to shake the dread clinging to her ribs. Sarah suggests the library, maybe there's old campus records, something to explain this shit. Ellie agrees, desperate for a thread to pull. They're halfway across the quad when a guy jogs up, all lanky limbs and messy hair. "Hey, you're the new girls in West Haven, right?" he says, grinning. "I'm Jake. History major, second year. Heard you got the haunted room." Ellie blinks, caught off guard. "Haunted?" she says, voice flat. Jake laughs, oblivious to her tone. "Yeah, people say weird stuff happens in 307, he says. Lights flicker, voices in the walls. Figured it was bullshit, but you look like you've seen a ghost already." Sarah snorts. "More like a whole photo album of them," she mutters. Jake's eyes light up. "Wait, what?" he says. "Spill." Ellie hesitates, but Sarah is already spilling, tunnel, photos, death dates, the works. Ellie cuts in, showing him her picture. "This was down there," she says. "My name, my face, dated this year." Jake takes it, eyebrows shooting up. "Whoa," he says, flipping it over. "This is some next-level creepy." He pauses, squinting at the handwriting. "Looks old, though. Like, decades old." "You think it's a prank?" Ellie shakes her head. "The others died," she says. "All of them." Jake whistles low. "Okay, that's not normal," he says. "Crestwood's got secrets, old money, weird traditions. Maybe you stumbled onto one." He's hooked, offering to help dig into the college's past. Ellie's not sure she trusts him, he's too eager, too casual about it, but she's got no better leads. They head to the library, Jake rambling about secret societies and cover-ups, while Sarah mutters about him being a nerd with too much caffeine. Ellie's quiet, mind spinning. The library's a hulking brick thing, all dusty shelves and flickering lights. Jake leads them to the archives, pulling microfiche like he lives there. They start with dorm records, cross-checking names. Jennifer, Mary, Karen, all listed as residents of 307. All dead, just like the photos said. Hours blur by, and Ellie's eyes ache from squinting at grainy text. Sarah is dozing on a table, Jake scribbling theories, when Ellie's phone buzzes, low battery. She stands to stretch, and that's when it happens. Back in the dorm, miles away, a photo slips off the tunnel wall. It's Jennifer's, the first one she checked. It hits the dirt, and something shifts. A faint scrape, like wood on stone, echoes up the shaft. The floorboard in their room trembles, just once, but nobody's there to hear it. Back at the library, Ellie freezes, a chill prickling her neck. "You okay?" Jake asks, looking up. She nods, shaky. "Yeah," she lies. "Just tired." They pack up, but Ellie's distracted, that chill sticking to her. Back in the dorm, she's first through the door, and her breath catches. The desk's still over the hole, but something's off. She kneels, Sarah and Jake crowding behind her. There, wedged under the floorboard's edge, is Jennifer's photo. It wasn't there before, they'd left them all below. Ellie picks it up, hands trembling. On the frame, scratched into the wood, "You're next." Sarah gasps, Jake swears, and Ellie just stares, heart slamming against her ribs. Whatever's down there, it's not waiting for December. It's already moving. Episode 4, The Pact. Ellie's holding Jennifer's photo like it's a live wire, the scratched words "You're next" glaring up at her in the dim dorm light. Sarah is pacing again, muttering curses under her breath, while Jake leans against the desk, arms crossed, trying to look calm but failing. His foot taps a nervous rhythm on the floor. "Okay, Ellie," he says, voice tight. "This just went from creepy to horror movie territory." What do we do? Ellie doesn't answer right away. Her head's a mess, thoughts crashing into each other like cars in a pileup. She's scared, yeah, but there's something else too, anger, hot and sharp, clawing up her throat. She's not some helpless damsel waiting to get picked off. Screw that. We dig deeper, she says finally, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. This isn't random. The tunnel, the photos, the note, it's connected. We just need the why. Sarah stops pacing, staring at her. You're insane, she says. You want to keep poking this thing? It's poking back, Ellie. Ellie meets her eyes, unflinching. I'm not sitting here waiting to die, Sarah, she says. You in or out? Sarah groans, dragging a hand through her curls. Fine, she mutters. But if I get possessed, I'm haunting your ass first. Jake grins, shaky but game. Count me in, he says. Let's crack this bitch open. They start with the photos message. Your next isn't much to go on, but it's a shove, a dare. Ellie flips through her phone pics again, zooming in on the note from the box. The price is paid in silence. It's gnawing at her, that word, silence. Like it's a rule, a deal. She shows it to Jake. You said Crestwood's got secrets, she says. Old traditions. Anything about silence? He frowns, thinking. Maybe, Hawkins, he says. There's rumors about a group back in the 60s, rich kids, power trips. Called themselves the Order. Kept everything hush-hush. Ellie's pulse quickens. The Order, she repeats. What did they do? Jake shrugs. Nobody knows for sure, he says. Just whispers. Rituals, favors, weird shit. Then they vanished, poof, after 68. 68. The number sticks in Ellie's head like a splinter. She grabs her laptop, pulls up the library database they'd skimmed earlier. She types Crestwood Order 1968 and hits search. Most of it's junk, student blogs, conspiracy threads, but one hit catches her eye, a scanned page from an old campus paper, buried in the archives. She clicks it, and there's a grainy photo of 5 students in robes, standing in a circle. The caption's faded, but she makes out Order of the Silent Oath, May 1968. Silent Oath. Her breath catches. Beneath it, a snippet, rumor swirl of a pact made in the shadows of West Haven Hall. That's her dorm. Sarah leans over her shoulder, squinting. A pact? She says. Like, what, they sold their souls? Ellie scrolls down. There's more, a journal entry, digitized from some professor's estate. It's dated June 10, 1968, and it's short, cryptic. The order's gone too far, it reads. The tunnel's sealed, but the pact holds. One life every 7 years, or it takes us all. Ellie's mouth goes dry. 7 years. She grabs her phone, pulls up the death dates. Jennifer, 1972. Mary, 1985. Karen, 2003. She counts the gaps, 7, 13, 18. It's uneven, but the pattern's there, stretching back decades. Her date, 2025, fits if it's every 7 years from Karen. Holy shit, she whispers. It's a schedule. Sarah's eyes widen. You're saying they're sacrificing people? She says. Ellie nods, slow. Looks like it, she says. And I'm up next. Jake whistles low. That's some dark-ass history, he says. But who's running it now? Ellie doesn't know, but that journal's got her hooked. She needs the full thing, not just a teaser. The library's got it listed, special collections, 3rd floor. She's already grabbing her jacket. Let's go, she says. Now. They hit the library at dusk, the sky smudged orange and gray. The special collections room smells like old paper and regret, shelves packed tight with boxes and leather spines. The librarian's a sour-faced guy who barely glances up, but Jake charms him into letting them browse. Ellie finds the journal fast, a thin, cracked thing with yellowed pages. She flips through, heart pounding, until she hits it, a full entry, May 25, 1968. The order swore silence to protect the college, it says. A girl from 307 offered each cycle. The tunnel hides the cost. If we break it, the debt comes due. Debt. Cost. Ellie's skin crawls. It's her room, her life on the line. She's about to read more when a shadow falls over the table. She looks up, and it's Dr. Martin, her psych professor, all tweed and sharp eyes. He's smiling, but it's thin, brittle. "Ms. Johnson," he says, voice smooth. "Burning the midnight oil already?" Ellie slams the journal shut, pulse racing. "Just research," she says, casual as she can manage. He tilts his head. "Dangerous ground, digging into Crestwood's past," he says. "Some secrets bite back." Then he's gone, footsteps fading down the hall. Sarah grabs her arm. "He knows," she hisses. Ellie nods, throat tight. "Yeah," she says. "And he's scared." That night, Ellie dreams. She's in the tunnel, walls pressing in, air thick with dirt and whispers. A woman's there, pale, young, soaked in shadow. She grabs Ellie's wrist, nails digging in. "Run," she says, voice ragged. "Run before it's you." Ellie jolts awake, gasping, sheets tangled around her legs. The clock says 3 a.m., and the dorm's silent, but her wrist stings like it's real. She stumbles to the mirror, and there they are, faint red marks, crescent-shaped, like someone grabbed her hard. She stares, heart slamming, and knows one thing for sure, the tunnel's not waiting for December. It's already reaching out. Episode 5, The Names on the Wall. Ellie's wrist still stings when she wakes up, the red marks faded but real enough to make her stomach churn. It's Sunday, the dorm buzzing with hungover freshmen and the clatter of unpacked boxes, but she's locked in her head, replaying that dream. "Run," the woman said, voice like broken glass. Run from what? The tunnel? The pact? Her own damn shadow? She's sitting on her bed, knees pulled up, staring at the desk over the floorboard. Sarah is sprawled across her own mattress, scrolling her phone, oblivious to the war in Ellie's chest. She hasn't told her about the dream yet, doesn't know how to say it without sounding unhinged. "You good?" Sarah asks, glancing up. "You look like you saw a ghost." Ellie forces a laugh, brittle and fake. "Just tired," she says, but her voice shakes, and Sarah is not buying it. She sits up, tossing her phone aside. "Bullshit, Ellie," she says. "What's up?" "Spill it." Ellie hesitates, then lifts her sleeve, showing the marks. "Had a dream," she says. "Someone grabbed me. Left these." Sarah's eyes widen, and she's off the bed in a flash, leaning close. "What the hell?" she says, tracing the faint crescents with a finger. "That's not normal." Ellie nods, throat tight. "Yeah," she says. "And she told me to run." Sarah is quiet for a beat, then grabs her jacket. "We're going back down," she says, firm. "Now." Ellie blinks, caught off guard. "You sure?" she asks. "Last time you freaked." Sarah snorts. "Yeah, well, I'm not letting some ghost bitch mark you up and get away with it," she says. "Come on." Ellie's torn, part of her wants to bolt, part of her needs to know, but Sarah is already dragging the desk aside, prying up the board. The hole gapes back, dark and hungry, and Ellie's gut twists. She grabs her phone, switches on the flashlight, and follows Sarah down, heart hammering. The tunnel's colder this time, the air biting at her skin, and that sour smell's stronger, like something's rotting just out of sight. They reach the photo room fast, and Ellie sweeps her light over the walls. The pictures are still there, staring back, Jennifer, Mary, Karen, all those dead girls. Her spot's empty, the pin dangling loose, and she shudders, shoving her own photo deeper into her pocket. Sarah is poking around, restless, when she stops dead. "Ellie," she says, voice low. "Look at this." Ellie turns, and Sarah's lights on the far wall, where the bricks are rougher, uneven. Names are carved into them, jagged and deep, dozens of them, stretching floor to ceiling. Ellie steps closer, breath hitching. They're women's names: Anna, Beth, Lisa, some with dates, some without. She runs her fingers over one: Jennifer, 1972. It matches the photo. Mary's there too, 1985, and Karen, 2003. Her light catches more: names she doesn't recognize, going back decades. Sarah's voice shakes. "These are them," she says. "All of them." Ellie nods, counting. "There's gaps, but it's every 7 years, just like the journal said." Then she sees it, near the bottom, fresh and raw: Ellie, 2025. Her name, scratched like someone meant it. She stares, chest tight, and grabs a loose brick from the floor. "No way," she mutters, and starts scraping at it, grinding the letters out. Sarah grabs her arm. "What are you doing?" she hisses. Ellie shakes her off. "I'm not letting it stay," she says, voice fierce. "This isn't my grave." She scratches until it's gone, just a smear of dust, and drops the brick, panting. Sarah is pale, eyes darting around. "You think that'll stop it?" she asks. Ellie shrugs, defiant. "It's a start," she says. But the air shifts, heavier now, and the lights on their phones flicker, just for a second. They freeze, listening. Nothing at first, then a low hum, like a breath held too long, rolling up from deeper in the tunnel. Sarah grabs her hand. "We need to go," she says, urgent. Ellie nods, but she's slow, eyes locked on the wall. The hum grows, vibrating in her bones, and then the lights flicker again, off, on, off, on. When they steady, Ellie's breath catches. Her name's back, carved deeper, sharper, like the wall rewrote itself. Sarah gasps, yanking her toward the ladder. "Move, Ellie!" She snaps, and they scramble up, hearts pounding, slamming the board down behind them. Back in the room, they shove the desk over the hole, collapsing against it. Sarah is shaking, swearing under her breath. "It put it back," she says. "It fucking put it back." Ellie nods, numb. "Yeah," she says. "It's not letting go." She pulls her sleeve up, and the marks on her wrist are darker now, almost bruised. Sarah stares, then grabs her phone. "We're telling Jake," she says. "He's a nerd, he'll know what to do." Ellie doesn't argue. She's out of ideas, and that hum's still echoing in her skull, low and mean. They call Jake, and he's there in 10 minutes, breathless and wide-eyed. "You're kidding," he says, staring at the marks. Ellie shakes her head, showing him the pics of the wall. "It's alive, Jake," she says. "Or something is." He paces, muttering about curses and ley lines, then stops. "The order," he says. "That pact, it's not just history. It's still running." Ellie's stomach drops. "And I'm the next payment," she says, voice flat. Jake nods, grim. "Maybe," he says. "But we're not done digging." Ellie looks at the floor, the desk, the invisible hole beneath it. She's not running, not yet. But whatever's down there, it's awake now, and it's watching. Episode 6, The Shadow Grows. Ellie staring at the marks on her wrist, now a deep, ugly purple, like someone's been twisting her skin for hours. It's Monday morning, the dorm alive with the chaos of first classes, slamming doors, shouted goodbyes, but she's rooted to her bed, phone in hand, replaying Jake's words. The pack's still running. She's the next payment. It's not a theory anymore, it's a fist around her throat, squeezing tighter every second. Sarah is across the room, packing her bag for biolab equals lab, muttering about how they're screwed if Jake doesn't come up with something fast. Ellie barely hears her. That hum from the tunnel still buzzing in her bones, a low, pissed-off drone that won't quit. Sarah slings her backpack over her shoulder, then stops, eyeing Ellie. "You're not moving," she says, voice sharp. "You skipping class?" Ellie shrugs, listless. "What's the point?" She mutters. "I've got 9 months before I'm a ghost. Might as well sleep through it." Sarah drops her bag, stomps over, and yanks the blanket off her. "Nope," she snaps. "You're not doing this mopey bullshit, Ellie. We're fighting this. Get up." Ellie glares, but Sarah is not budging, so she drags herself upright, cursing under her breath. "Fine," she says. "But if I die in algebra, it's on you." They meet Jake outside the library, where he's waiting with a stack of books and a manic grin that says he's had too much coffee or too little sleep. "Got something," he says, waving a battered notebook. "Found it in the history stacks, some grad student's thesis notes from '98. Mentions the order big time." Ellie's pulse kicks up. "What's it say?" she asks, snatching it. Jake leans in, excited. "It's sketchy, but it tracks the tunnel back to the '50s, he says. Cold War paranoia, bomb shelter vibes. Then the order took it over in '68. Turned it into their little hideout. Rituals, oaths, the works." Ellie flips through, scanning scribbled lines. One jumps out, "The tunnel's the anchor. Break it, break the pact." She shows Sarah, who frowns. "Break it how?" she asks. Jake shrugs. "No clue," he says. "But it's a start." Ellie's not sold. Breaking a tunnel sounds like a jackhammer and a hard hat, not a fix for a curse carving her name into walls. She's about to argue when Sarah's phone buzzes. She glances at it, then pales. Guys?" she says, voice shaky. "My mom just texted. She's freaking out, says she had a dream I was trapped underground." Ellie's stomach drops. "Trapped?" she echoes. Sarah nods, scrolling. "Yeah," she says. Screaming, clawing at dirt. "Woke up crying." Jake's grin fades. "That's not a coincidence," he says. Ellie agrees, dread pooling in her gut. "The tunnel's reaching out," she says. "It's not just me anymore." Sarah's rattled, and Ellie can't blame her. She's been dragging her into this mess, and now it's spilling over. "I'm sorry," she says, voice low. "I didn't mean to," Sarah cuts her off, fierce. "Shut up, Ellie," she says. "We're in this together. But I'm not going back down there. Not after that that shadow." Ellie nods, guilty but relieved. She's not sure she can either, not yet. Jake clears his throat. "Okay," he says. "No tunnel. But we've got the orders playbook. Let's hit the source, Dr. Martin. He knows more than he's letting on." Ellie tenses, remembering his warning in the library. Dangerous ground, he'd said. She's starting to think he's right. They track Dr. Martin to his office hours, a cramped room stuffed with books and stale coffee smell. He's there, hunched over papers, looking older than he did last week, like the weight of something's crushing him slow. He glances up as they barge in, eyes narrowing. "Ms. Johnson," he says, cool and clipped. "Ms. Taylor or Mr. Hawkins. To what do I owe this interruption?" Ellie doesn't waste time. "We know about the order," she says, slamming the notebook on his desk. "The tunnel, the pact, the deaths. And my name's next. What the hell's going on?" Martin's face goes stone cold, but his hands twitch, betraying him. "You've been busy," he says, voice tight. "I told you to leave it alone." Sarah steps forward, arms crossed. "Yeah, well, we didn't," she says. "And now it's messing with my family. So talk." Martin sighs, rubbing his temples. "You don't understand what you're stirring up," he says. "I was there, '68. A student, like you. The order, they weren't just playing. They made a deal, something old, something real. Ellie's heart slams against her ribs. A deal with what? She asks. Martin shakes his head. I don't know, he says. Power, protection, doesn't matter. They sealed it with a life, and it's held ever since. One girl every 7 years. Break it, and it unravels everything. Ellie stares, fury bubbling up. And you just let it happen? She snaps. Watched them die. Martin flinches, eyes dark. I had no choice, he says. None of us did. It's bigger than you think. She wants to scream, to flip his desk, but Jake cuts in. The tunnel's the anchor, he says. That's what the notes say. Destroy it, end it. Martin laughs, bitter and hollow. You think it's that simple? He says. Try it. See what comes for you. He stands, grabbing his coat. I'm done talking, he says. Stay out of it, or you'll drag more than yourselves down. Then he's gone, door slamming behind him. They're silent, the air heavy. Sarah is shaking, Jake's pale, and Ellie's burning, fists clenched. He's lying, she says. He knows more. Jake nods, slow. Maybe, he says. But he's scared shitless. Means we're close. Sarah's voice cracks. Close to what? She says. Getting killed faster? Ellie doesn't answer. She's staring at the notebook, at Martin's photo pinned inside, him, young, in 68, standing by the dorm. Her dorm. Her room. Her death date. And in the background, faint but there, a shadow stretches across the wall, long and wrong, like it's watching. Episode 7, The Artist's Eye. Ellie's head spinning as they stumble out of Dr. Martin's office, the notebook clutched tight in her hand. His words are a jagged edge in her skull. It's bigger than you think, he'd said, and that laugh, bitter and broken, like he's already given up. The hallway's empty, campus quiet under a gray afternoon sky, but she feels watched, like the air's got eyes. Sarah's beside her, arms hugged tight around herself, and Jake's trailing, muttering about anchors and curses. Ellie stops dead, turning to them. He's hiding something, she says, voice raw. He knows how to stop it, he just won't say. Sarah's eyes flash. Yeah, because he's a coward, she snaps. Did you see him? He's terrified. Ellie nods, anger simmering. Exactly, she says. He's in too deep, been in it since 68. We need leverage. Jake perks up, snapping out of his daze. Leverage how? He asks. We've got nothing on him. Ellie holds up the notebook, flipping to Martin's photo. This, she says. Him, young, by the dorm. If he was order, there's proof somewhere. We find it, we squeeze him. Sarah groans. Great, she says. More digging. I'm starting to hate libraries. They're halfway across the quad when someone calls out. Hey, tunnel girl. Ellie turns, and there's a new face, short, wiry, with paint-splattered jeans and a grin too big for her frame. She's waving a sketchbook, jogging over. I'm Lily, she says, breathless. Art major, first year. Heard you're the one stirring up West Haven's ghosts. Ellie blinks, thrown. Heard from who? She asks. Lily shrugs, casual. People talk, she says. Creepy room, creepy vibes. I'm into it, can I tag along? Sarah snorts. What, you want to draw the Grim Reaper? She says. Lily laughs, sharp and bright. Maybe, she says. Or whatever's down there. I've got a thing for shadows. Ellie's wary, she doesn't trust easy, and Lily's too chipper for this mess, but there's something about her, a reckless edge that feels useful. Sure, she says, slow. But it's not a game. Lily's grin widens. Good, she says. I hate boring. They fill her in quick, tunnel, photos, packed, Martin, and she's hooked, flipping open her sketchbook to jot notes. "Let's hit him again," she says. "Catch him off guard." Ellie likes her already. They head back to Martin's office, Lily leading like she owns the place, but he's gone, door locked, lights off. Sarah kicks the wall. "Asshole's running," she says. Ellie's not surprised. "He's slippery, she'll give him that." Lily's unfazed. "Okay, plan B," she says. "You've got a tunnel, right? Show me." Sarah tenses, shaking her head. "No way," she says. "I'm done with that hole." Ellie hesitates, the hum still lurking in her memory, but Lily's pushy, and Jake's nodding like it's a great idea. "Fine," Ellie says, grudging. "But we're careful." Back at the dorm, Sarah opts out, crashing on her bed with a podcast and a glare that says "Don't die." Ellie, Jake, and Lily pry up the floorboard, the hole yawning dark below. Lily's first down, fearless, her flashlight bouncing off the bricks. Ellie follows, nerves tight, Jake behind her. The photo room's the same, eerie, crowded with dead faces, but Lily's in her element, sketching fast, capturing the wall of names. Ellie watches, uneasy, as Lily traces her own name smear, the spot she'd scratched out. It's back, deep and angry, like the tunnel's taunting her. Lily pauses, pencil hovering. "This is wild," she says, voice low. "It's like it's alive." Jake nods, poking at the locked box. "Maybe it is," he says. "The anchor's here, gotta be." Ellie's about to snap at him to focus when Lily gasps, pointing. "There," she says. "Look." Ellie turns, and her breath stops. On the far wall, where the names end, there's a figure, faint, sketched in shadow, like it's etched into the brick. A woman, head bowed, hands clasped. It wasn't there before. Lily's already drawing it, frantic, her lines sharp and sure. Ellie steps closer, light trembling. "It's her," she whispers. "From my dream. The one who grabbed me." Jake's pale, staring. "You didn't say she was down here," he says. Ellie shakes her head. "She wasn't," she says. "Until now." Lily finishes, ripping the page out and handing it to Ellie. It's dead on, pale face, shadowed eyes, that desperate grip. Ellie's skin crawls. "How'd you see her?" she asks. Lily shrugs, uneasy for once. "I don't know," she says. "She just showed up. In my head, then here." They're all rattled, the air thick with something heavy, when the hum starts again, low, insistent, rolling up from the dark. Ellie's marks throb, and she grabs Lily's arm. "We're out," she says, firm. They scramble up, slamming the board down, but Lily's sketch stays in Ellie's hand, a weight she can't shake. Back in the room, Sarah's asleep, headphones on, oblivious. Ellie shows Jake the drawing again, voice low. "She's warning me," she says. "Or trapping me." Jake frowns, studying it. "Could be both," he says. "The order's deal, it's tied to her, maybe." Ellie nods, dread sinking deeper. Lily's quiet, sketching something new, her hands shaky. Ellie glances over, and it's the tunnel, but different, darker, with that figure looming, watching. "She didn't see that," Ellie says, sharp. Lily looks up, eyes wide. "I know," she says. "But it's there." Ellie's heart skips. Whatever Lily's tapped into, it's not just art. It's the tunnel talking back. Episode 8, The 7-Year Cycle. Ellie's clutching Lily's sketch, the woman's shadowed face staring up at her like a warning she can't decode. It's Tuesday night, the dorm humming with late-study chaos, someone's microwave pinging, a laugh echoing down the hall, but her room's a bubble of tension, thick and suffocating. Sarah is awake now, sprawled on her bed, glaring at the drawing like it's cursed. Which, Ellie thinks, it might be. Jake's pacing, flipping through his notebook, while Lily's cross-legged on the floor, sketching again, her pencil scratching loud in the quiet. Ellie's marks ache, a dull pulse under her skin, and that hum's still there, faint but stubborn, like a heartbeat she can't shake. Okay, Ellie, Jake says, stopping mid-step. We've got a ghost chick in the tunnel, a professor who's half checked out, and a pact that's clocking you for December. What's the play? Ellie leans back, head against the wall. We figure out the cycle, she says, voice steady despite the churn in her gut. 7 years, right? That's what Martin said, what the names show. If we map it, we find the pattern, maybe the why. Sarah snorts, bitter. Great, she says. Math to save your ass. My favorite. Lily looks up, grinning. Better than crying about it, she says, and Sarah flips her off, half serious. They spread out the evidence, photos, notes, Lily's sketches, on Ellie's bed, a messy puzzle of dead girls and red ink. Ellie starts with the dates she knows: Jennifer, 1972. Mary, 1985. Karen, 2003. She scribbles them down, counting gaps. 7 years to 79, then 6 to 85, then 18 to 2003, then 22 to her, 2025. It's sloppy, uneven, and she frowns. This doesn't add up, she says. 7's the rule, but it's jumping all over. Jake leans in, squinting. Maybe it's not strict, he says. Could be, opportunities. When the right girl's in the room. Ellie's stomach twists. The right girl. Her. She grabs the journal page from 68, rereading Martin's snippet, 1 life every 7 years, or it takes us all. Takes us all, she mutters. The order? Crestwood? What's the all? Lily pauses her sketching, tapping her pencil. Sounds like a trade, she says. 1 dies, the rest live. Ellie nods, slow. So I'm the sacrifice, she says, voice flat. Keeps the machine running. Sarah slams her hand on the bed. That's bullshit, she says. You're not a lamb for their slaughter. We break it. Jake's eyes light up. The anchor, he says. Tunnel's the key, smash it, stop the cycle. Ellie's not convinced. Martin laughed at that, she says. Said it'd come for us. Lily shrugs, casual. Let it try, she says. I'd draw it first. Ellie almost laughs, Lily's nuts, but it's growing on her. They dig back in, cross-checking names from the wall with the college's online archives. It's slow, the Wi-Fi choking, but patterns emerge. Anna, 1959, overdose. Beth, 1966, hit and run. Then Jennifer, Mary, Karen. Every 7 years, give or take, a girl from 307 dies, accident, illness, something quiet but final. Ellie's counting out loud, voice tight. 59, 66, 72, 85, 2003, she says. That's 5 solid hits. 2025 makes 6. 7 years from Karen, bang on. Sarah is pale, staring at the list. It's a clock, she says. Ticking down to you. Ellie nods, throat dry. And it's never missed, she says. Not once. Jake scribbling again, frantic. Okay, he says. 59's pre-order, but 66 is close, maybe they locked it in then. 68's the packed year. Ellie's mind snags on that. 68, she says. Martin was there. He's the link. They're deep in it when Ellie's phone buzzes, low battery, but the screen flickers, odd and glitchy. She ignores it, but the lights in the room stutter too, off, on, off, on. Sarah jumps. What the hell? She says. Jake's frozen, notebook slipping. It's here, he whispers. Ellie's marks burn, sharp and sudden, and she grabs the sketch, staring at the woman's face. The hum's back, louder, rolling up from the floorboard like a growl. Then her phone cuts out, dead, and the room goes dark, just for a second. When the lights snap back, they're all breathing hard, eyes darting. Ellie's first to move, yanking the desk aside, peering at the hole. It's silent now, but the air's wrong, too cold, too still. Sarah is shaking her head. No, Ellie, she says, voice cracking. Don't. Ellie ignores her, grabbing her flashlight. I'm not waiting for it to come up here, she says, and drops down, heart slamming. The tunnel's the same, damp, tight, but the photo room feels different, heavier. She sweeps her light, and there it is, her name on the wall, deeper, with a fresh scratch beside it, a line, like a tally mark. 1. Her breath catches. It's counting, she whispers, alone in the dark. The hum spikes, loud and close, and her flashlight flickers. She spins, light bouncing, and catches it, a shadow, tall and thin, at the tunnel's edge, gone when she blinks. Her marks sear, and she bolts, scrambling up the ladder, slamming the board down. Sarah is there, grabbing her. What happened? She demands. Ellie's panting, voice hoarse. It's marking time, she says. And it's awake. Lily's sketch lies on the bed, the woman's eyes darker now, like someone's inked them in. Ellie stares, dread sinking deep. 7 years, 1 life. And it's whispering her name as she sleeps. Episode 9, The Collapse. Ellie's barely slept, her eyes gritty and raw as Wednesday morning bleeds through the dorm window. The sketch of the shadow woman sits on her desk, those inked-in eyes staring like they're alive, and her wrist marks throb, a dull ache that's spreading up her arm. Sarah is across the room, curled tight under her blanket, refusing to look at the floorboard. Jake's crashed on the floor, notebook splayed open, snoring through the tension. Lily's the only one moving, perched on Sarah's bed, sketching again, her pencils a frantic scratch against the quiet. Ellie watches her, uneasy. Lily's too calm, too deep in this, and that last drawing's got her spooked. You okay? Ellie asks, voice rough. Lily doesn't look up, just nods. Fine, she says, clipped. Just thinking. Ellie frowns, leaning closer. The new sketch is the tunnel, but warped, walls bending, shadows pooling like ink. It's not right, she says. You're seeing stuff we didn't. Lily pauses, pencil hovering. Maybe, she says, soft. Or maybe I'm seeing what's coming. Ellie's stomach flips. She wants to push, but Sarah stirs, groaning. Can you two shut up? She mutters. Some of us are pretending this isn't hell. Ellie smirks, bitter. Sorry, princess, she says. Hell's wide awake. Jake jolts up, bleary-eyed. What did I miss? He mumbles, grabbing his notebook. Ellie fills him in, tally mark, shadow, the hum. He's pale by the end, rubbing his face. Okay, he says. It's escalating. We need to hit it hard, tunnel, anchor, all of it. Sarah sits up, glaring. You mean go back down? She says. After that? No way. Lily grins, reckless. I'm game, she says. Let's poke the beast. Ellie's torn, Sarah's right to balk, but Lily's push is tempting. We don't poke, she says, firm. We plan. That box, there's a lock. Maybe it's got more. Sarah is out, flat refusing, but Jake and Lily are in, so Ellie leads them to the hole. The desk scrapes loud as they shove it aside, and the floorboard lifts with a groan. Ellie's first down, flashlight cutting the dark, Lily and Jake close behind. The tunnel's colder, the air thick with that sour rot smell, and her marks burn sharper, like a warning. They hit the photo room, and Ellie beelines for the rusted box, kneeling to inspect it. The lock's old, pitted, but solid. Jake pokes at it. We need a key, he says. Or a crowbar. Lily's already rummaging, fearless, kicking at loose bricks. Got something, she says, pulling a rusted nail from the dirt. Close enough. Ellie takes it, jamming it into the lock, twisting hard. It fights her, metal grinding, but Lily grabs another brick and smashes down, reckless and wild. The lock snaps, lid popping open with a clang that echoes too loud. Inside, there's dust, a folded cloth, and something heavy, a rusted key, big and ornate, like it's from another century. Ellie lifts it, light catching its edges. "What's this for?" she mutters. Jake's eyes widen. "The anchor," he says. "Bet it's deeper in." Lily's grinning, bouncing on her toes. "Let's find out," she says, and before Ellie can stop her, she's darting down the tunnel, past the photo room, into the dark. "Lily, wait!" Ellie yells, but she's gone, flashlight bobbing. Jake swears, and they chase her, the hum spiking loud and angry. The tunnel narrows, walls brushing their shoulders, and the air so thick it's hard to breathe. Lily's ahead, a shadow in the haze, when the ground shakes, once, hard, like a fist slamming down. Dust rains, bricks groan, and Ellie stumbles, grabbing Jake. "What the hell?" he gasps. Lily spins back, eyes wide. "It's pissed," she shouts, just as the ceiling cracks, a jagged split spidering above them. "Move!" Ellie screams, and they bolt, but the tunnel's fighting back, chunks of brick crash down, dirt choking the air. Lily's fast, but a slab catches her leg, pinning her with a yelp. Ellie and Jake haul at it, hands bleeding, as the hum turns to a roar, shaking the walls. They yank her free, half dragging her back to the ladder, the tunnel collapsing behind them. Bricks slam down, sealing the photo room, and they scramble up, coughing, slamming the board shut. The dorm's quiet, Sarah bolting upright as they collapse, covered in dust and blood. "What the fuck happened?" Sarah demands, voice shrill. Ellie's panting, holding up the key, hands shaking. "We got this," she says, hoarse. But it fought back. Lily's clutching her leg, grinning through the pain. "Worth it," she says, breathless. Jake's pale, staring at the floor. "It's alive," he says. "And it's mad." Sarah is shaking her head, furious. "You idiots," she says. "You're gonna kill us all." Then her phone buzzes, a text from Dr. Martin. "Stop now, or she pays." She freezes, showing Ellie. It's a photo of Sarah's mom, asleep in her Philly apartment, taken from above. Ellie's blood runs cold. "He knows," she says, voice trembling. "And he's not alone." Sarah's eyes fill with tears, rage and fear crashing together. "He's watching my family," she says. "I'm out, Ellie. I can't." Ellie nods, guilt clawing her raw. "I get it," she says, soft. But she's holding the key, heavy and cold, and Lily's sketch of the tunnel lies crumpled nearby, the shadow woman's face smeared with dirt. The collapse didn't stop it, it woke it up. And now it's hunting more than just her. Episode 10, The List in the Box. Ellie sitting on the dorm floor, the rusted key cold in her palm, its weight pressing into her skin like a promise she doesn't understand. It's Thursday morning, the room a wreck, dust from the tunnel collapse still clings to their clothes, and Sarah's pacing, phone clutched tight, her mom's photo burning a hole in her head. Jake's nursing a scraped elbow, flipping through his notebook with shaky hands, while Lily sprawled on Ellie's bed, sketching despite the bruise blooming on her leg. The air's heavy, sour with fear and sweat, and that hum's gone quiet, but Ellie knows it's not done, just waiting, coiled tight. Sarah stops, spinning to Ellie, eyes red. "I'm done, Ellie," she says, voice cracking. "He's got my mom in his sights. I can't risk her." Ellie nods, throat tight. "I know," she says, soft. "You're out. Stay safe." Sarah's lip trembles, but she grabs her bag, slinging it over her shoulder. "You should stop too," she says, fierce. "Before it's everyone." Then she's gone, door slamming, leaving a hole in the room Ellie feels in her gut. She's lost her, maybe for good, and it stings worse than the marks on her wrist, now a mottled purple-black creeping toward her elbow. Jake clears his throat, breaking the silence. "Okay," he says, voice thin. "She's right to bail, but we've got this." He points at the key. That's our shot. Ellie looks at it, then at the box they'd dragged up before the collapse sealed the tunnel. It's dented, rusted, but intact, and she'd barely glanced inside, too busy running. She sets the key down, prying the lid open again. The cloth's still there, yellowed and stiff, and she unfolds it slow, dust puffing up. Beneath it, a paper, folded tight, edges frayed. She opens it, and her breath stops. It's a list. Names, handwritten, in that same shaky red ink from the photos. Dozens of them, some crossed out, some not. Anna, 1959, scratched through. Beth, 1966, gone. Jennifer, Mary, Karen, all marked off, dead and accounted for. Then her name, near the bottom, Ellie, 2025, uncrossed, waiting. Above it, a line in black, the vow holds the balance. One for all. She stares, heart slamming, and hands it to Jake. He reads, paling. It's the ledger, he says, hoarse. The pack's tally. Lily leans over, peering at it. Badass, she says, but her grin's shaky. Ellie's mind races. One for all, she mutters. They trade a life to keep something safe. Crestwood? The order? Jake nods, flipping back to his notes. 68's the pivot, he says. Martin's year. Bet he wrote this, or kept it. Ellie's anger flares. He's not just scared, she says. He's guilty. Playing gatekeeper while girls like me drop. Lily grabs the list, studying it. Look, she says, pointing. Some names aren't crossed, still alive, maybe. Ellie scans it, 3 uncrossed above her, Susan, 1996, Jane, 2010, Lisa, 2017. Her pulse jumps. Survivors, she says. Or skips. They dig into the archives again, laptops glowing in the dim room. Susan's a bust, died in 98, car crash, just late. Jane's alive, a lawyer in Boston, 41 and kicking. Lisa's a grad student in Oregon, 27, no record of trouble. Ellie frowns, confused. Why'd it miss them? She asks. Jake shrugs, grim. Could be they dodged it, left the room, broke the cycle somehow, he says. Or it didn't need them. Lily sketching the list now, her pencil fast. Maybe it picks, she says. Like, vibes or whatever. Ellie snorts, bitter. Great, she says. I've got the vibe of a dead girl. The key's still on the floor, glinting dull in the light, and Ellie grabs it, turning it over. It's heavy, old, with faint etchings, swirls, maybe letters, worn smooth. She's about to ask Jake when the lights flicker, once, twice, and that hum kicks up, low and mean, vibrating through the floor. Lily's pencil stops, Jake's breath catches, and Ellie's marks flare, sharp enough to make her gasp. The box rattles, just a twitch, and the list slips from Lily's hand, landing face up. Ellie's name pulses, ink bleeding fresh, like it's rewriting itself. They scramble back, staring. It's here, Jake whispers, voice trembling. Ellie's on her feet, key tight in her fist. Where's the lock? She snaps. This fits something, we need it. Lily's eyes dart to her sketch, the tunnel's warped walls. Deeper, she says, sure. Past where it fell. Ellie nods, dread mixing with fire. Then we dig, she says. Tomorrow. Jake's pale, but he's in. Lily grins, wild. Hell yeah, she says. Let's crack it open. They're planning, tools, timing, when Ellie hears it, footsteps, soft but close, right outside the door. She freezes, listening. The hall's dead quiet, no dorm noise, just that slow, deliberate tread. She creeps over, peering through the peephole. Nothing, just empty space, flickering lights. But the steps keep coming, circling, then stop. Her marks burn, and she backs away, heart pounding. Jake's wide-eyed. What? He asks. Ellie shakes her head, voice low. Someone's out there, she says. Or something. The key's warm now, too warm, and the list on the floor glows faintly, her name sharp against the dark. It's not just counting, it's closing in. Episode 11, The Burning. Ellie's gripping the key so hard her knuckles ache, the metal warm and slick against her palm. It's Friday morning, the dorm a gray haze of early light and stale coffee, but she's wired, eyes bloodshot from a night of no sleep. Those footsteps outside her door, they'd faded after an hour, leaving her jumpy, listening for every creak. Jake slumped at her desk, head buried in his arms, while Lily sprawled on the floor, sketchbook open to a new drawing, the key, surrounded by jagged lines like cracks in the earth. The list from the box sits beside it, Ellie's name still sharp, uncrossed, a red slash in the quiet. She's staring at it when Jake stirs, groaning. We're really doing this? He mumbles, voice thick. Digging into a pissed-off tunnel? Ellie nods, jaw tight. Yeah, she says. Keys are shot, find the lock, break the anchor. No more waiting. Lily sits up, grinning through a yawn. I'm in, she says. Let's burn it down if we have to. Ellie's not sure she means that literally, but the idea sticks, fire, clean and final, wiping out the pack's grip. Jake rubs his eyes, skeptical. Martin said it'd come for us, he says. You ready for that? Ellie's marks throb, a slow burn up her arm. It's already here, she says. I'm done running. They gear up fast, crowbar from Jake's car, a hammer from Lily's art kit, flashlights, matches just in case. The dorm's buzzing with weekend noise, someone's blasting music, a door slams, but it fades as they pry up the floorboard. The hole's darker now, the collapse leaving a jagged mess below, bricks and dirt piled high. Ellie's first down, boots crunching on debris, the air cold and thick with dust. Jake follows, coughing, and Lily's last, her light sweeping wild. The photo room's gone, buried under rubble, but the tunnel stretches past it, narrower, untouched. Ellie's heart pounds. Deeper, she says, voice steady. That's where it's waiting. They move slow, walls brushing their shoulders, the hum kicking up low and restless. Ellie's marks flare, sharp and hot, and she grits her teeth, pushing on. The tunnel bends, then opens, a second chamber, bigger, rougher, with a stone slab in the center. Carved into it, names, dates, the same red ink. Anna, Beth, Jennifer, all there, etched deep. Ellie's name's last, fresh and raw, with that tally mark beside it. 1. Her breath catches. It's the heart, she says. The real anchor. Jake nods, grim. And that's the lock, he says, pointing. Set into the slab, a rusted keyhole, big and ornate, matching the key in her hand. Lily's already at it, crowbar prying at the edges, reckless and fast. Ellie steps up, sliding the key in, it fits, smooth and sure, but it won't turn. She twists harder, muscles straining, and the hum spikes, loud and furious, shaking the walls. Dust rains, Jake stumbles, and Lily swings the hammer, smashing the slab's edge. Crack it! She yells, wild. Ellie pulls the key out, grabs the crowbar, and they attack together, metal on stone, sparks flying, the hum roaring in their ears. The slab splits, a jagged line, and the keyhole warps, but it's not enough. Burn it, Lily says, breathless, pulling matches from her pocket. Ellie hesitates, fire's crazy, dangerous, but her marks sear, and she's done playing safe. She grabs the matches, strikes one, and tosses it onto the photos from her pocket, Jennifer, Mary, Karen, herself. They catch fast, flames licking up, and she throws them at the slab. The list goes next, red ink curling black, and the fire spreads, smoke choking the air. Jake's coughing, yelling, "What the hell, Ellie?" But she's past caring. The hum's a scream now, the walls trembling, and her marks burn white-hot, like they're melting off her skin. The slab cracks wider, fire eating at the names, and Ellie feels it, a shift, like something snapping loose. The tunnel groans, bricks shifting, and Lily grabs her arm. Out! She shouts, and they run, smoke stinging their eyes, the ceiling rumbling behind them. They hit the ladder, scrambling up, and collapse in the dorm, panting, as the floor shakes once, then stills. The hum's gone, the air lighter, and Ellie's marks fade, just a dull ache. Jake's wide-eyed, staring at her. You burned it, he says, hoarse. Did it work? Ellie doesn't know, her name's Ash now, but the key's still in her hand, warm and heavy. They're catching their breath when Sarah bursts in, eyes wet, face twisted. I'm sorry, she says, voice breaking. I told him, Martin. He called, threatened my mom again, and I gave him everything. Ellie's stomach drops, betrayal cutting deep. You what? She says, low and sharp. Sarah sobs, sinking to her knees. He said he'd stop it, she says. I didn't know what else to do. Jake's on his feet, furious. He's got the jump on us now, he snaps. Lily's quiet, sketching slow, her face unreadable. Ellie stares at Sarah, anger warring with pity. You sold us out, she says, cold. And he's coming. The room's silent, smoke still clinging to their clothes, when Ellie's phone buzzes, dead all night, but alive now. A text from an unknown number, you can't burn the debt. Her marks flare again, faint but there, and she knows, Martin's not the only one watching. The tunnel's quiet, but it's not dead. It's waiting for her next move. Episode 12, The New Photos. Ellie staring at the text, you can't burn the debt, her phone trembling in her hand as Saturday morning creeps into the dorm, pale and cold. Sarah is still on the floor, head buried in her knees, sobbing quiet apologies that don't land. Jake's pacing, fists clenched, muttering about betrayal and Martin, while Lily's sketching again, her pencil a steady scratch against the chaos. The key's on Ellie's desk, glinting dull, and her marks are back, faint, itchy, a reminder the fire didn't kill it. The tunnel's silent below, but she feels it, a weight pressing up through the floor, waiting to bite. She slams the phone down, spinning to Sarah. You gave him everything? She says, voice sharp enough to cut. Sarah flinches, looking up, eye swollen. I had to, Ellie, she says, voice cracking. He had my mom's address, said he'd send someone. I thought he'd fix it. Ellie's fury boils, but it's tangled with hurt. Fix it? She snaps. He's running this shit, Sarah. You handed him the playbook. Jake stops pacing, glaring. She's right, he says, harsh. He's got the tunnel, the key, us, everything. We're screwed. Sarah chokes out another sorry, but Ellie turns away, chest tight. She's done with tears, she needs a move. Lily looks up, calm as hell, holding her latest sketch. It's the slab, cracked and smoking, but the keyhole's intact, glowing faint. We heard it, she says, sure. Burning the list, it flinched. Ellie nods, grabbing the key. Yeah, she says. But not enough. Martin's text means it's still alive, still owes something. Jake rubs his face, grim. The debt, he says. One life, every 7 years. You're still on the hook. Ellie's marks twitch, and she grits her teeth. Then we burn more, she says. All of it. They're debating, photos, slab, the whole damn tunnel, when Jake freezes, staring at the floorboard. Guys? He says, voice thin. Look. Ellie turns, and her stomach drops. The board shifted, just an inch, but enough to show a sliver of dark. They'd nailed it down after the collapse, but something's pushed up. Lily's on her feet, crowbar in hand, grinning wild. Round 2? She says. Ellie nods, heart pounding, and they pry it open, the hole gaping back, colder than before. Dust swirls up, and Ellie's light catches something, new photos, scattered on the rubble below, pristine against the dirt. She drops down, boots crunching, Jake and Lily behind her. The collapse is still there, blocking the deeper tunnel, but the photo room's half exposed, and these pictures, they're fresh, ink wet, paper crisp. Ellie grabs one, hands shaking. It's Sarah, snapped asleep in her bed, dated yesterday, Sarah, March 25, 2025. Her breath stops. Yesterday. Lily snatches another, Jake, mid-pace, dated today. Jake's voice cracks. What the hell? He says, staring at his own face. Ellie finds hers, same shot from move-in, but the date scratched out, replaced with soon. Her marks flare, hot and sharp. They scramble up, slamming the board down, and Ellie bolts to Sarah, shoving the photo in her face. Look! She yells. You're in it now. Sarah stares, paling, then crumples, sobbing harder. I didn't know, she says, broken. I didn't mean, Ellie cuts her off, furious. Doesn't matter, she says. It's spreading. Jake's pacing again, photo clutched tight. This is Martin, he says. He's feeding it, us, to save his ass. Lily's quiet, flipping through the rest, then freezes. Shit, she says, soft. There's me. She holds it up, Lily, sketching, dated April 1st, 2025. 6 days from now. Ellie's head spins. It's not just me anymore, she says, voice trembling. It's all of us. The tunnel's rewriting the rules, pulling them in, and Martin's the puppet master, or the bait. Jake grabs his phone, dialing Martin, but it's dead air, voicemail, clipped and cold. He's dodging, Jake says, slamming it down. Lily sketching fast, the new photos taking shape, her hand steady despite the date on her own. Ellie's phone buzzes, same unknown number. Fire wakes it. Stop, or she's first. Attached, a shot of Sarah's mom, cooking in her kitchen, oblivious. Ellie shows Sarah, who gasps, clutching her chest. He's got her, she says, panicked. He'll kill her. Ellie's rage flares, but she's trapped, burn more, lose Sarah's mom, stop, lose them all. Lily looks up, eyes dark. Burn it anyway, she says, low. It's scared of fire, means we're close. Jake nods, grim. She's right, he says. We've got the key, the photos, hit it harder. Ellie's torn, staring at Sarah's tear-streaked face, then the key in her hand. She's about to decide when the lights flicker, the hum roaring back, loud and close. The desk rattles, sliding an inch, and the floorboard groans, nails popping loose. Ellie's marks sear, and she stumbles, clutching her arm. It's here, she says, hoarse. Jake grabs the crowbar, Lily the matches, and Sarah scrambles back, screaming. The board lifts, slow and deliberate, and new photos spill out, more faces, more dates, all fresh, all theirs. Ellie soon glares up, and the hum's a voice now, whispering her name, low and hungry, as the room goes dark. Episode 13, The Truth of the Deal. Ellie's frozen as the dorm plunges into black, the hum twisting into her name, Ellie, Ellie, low and wet, like it's crawling up her spine. It's Saturday night, the room a chaos of shadows and panic, new photos scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. Sarah is screaming, a raw, jagged sound, scrambling back against the wall. Jake swinging the crowbar at nothing, eyes wild, while Lily striking matches, her hand steady despite the dark, flames flaring and dying fast. Ellie's marks are fire now, burning up her arm, and the key in her fist feels alive, pulsing hot against her skin. The floorboard's wide open, the hole a gaping mouth, and she knows, it's not waiting anymore. Lily's match catches, a steady glow, and she tosses it onto the new photos. They blaze up, Sarah's face curling into ash, then Jake's, Lily's, Ellie's soon melting black. The hum screeches, a sound like nails on glass, and the desk slams back, pinning the board shut. Lights snap on, flickering wild, and the room still, smoke curling thick. Sarah is sobbing, clutching her knees, while Jake drops the crowbar, panting. Did it work? He asks, voice ragged. Ellie's marks dull to an ache, and she shakes her head, grim. It's mad, she says. But it's not gone. Her phone buzzes, another text, same number, you've made it worse. No photo this time, just those words, cold and final. She shows Jake, who swears, kicking the desk. Martin's playing us, he says. Feeding it to save himself. Lily's quiet, sketching the fire's aftermath, her face unreadable. Ellie grabs the key, staring at it. We need the truth, she says, fierce. No more games. He knows what this unlocks, time to make him talk. Sarah looks up, tear-streaked. He'll hurt her, she says, soft. My mom. Ellie meets her eyes, guilt twisting. I'll fix it, she says, a promise she's not sure she can keep. They track Martin Sunday morning, campus quiet under a heavy sky. His office is locked, but Jake spots him through a window, hunched in a lecture hall, alone, papers spread out. They barge in, Ellie leading, key raised like a weapon. Dr. Martin. She yells, voice echoing. No more bullshit. What's the deal? He looks up, slow, face gray and hollow, like he's aged a decade since Friday. You don't stop, do you? He says, voice tired. Ellie slams the key on his desk. This came from your tunnel, she says. My name's on a slab, my friend's too. Talk, or I burn it all down. Martin flinches, eyes darting to the key, then back to her. You've no idea what you're breaking, he says, low. The order, we didn't start it. It was here, older than Crestwood, older than us. Ellie's pulse races. What was? She snaps. He leans back, hands trembling. Power, he says. Protection. Something in the land, hungry, awake. The tunnel's its cage, the pact its leash. One life, every 7 years, keeps it fed, keeps it still. Break it, and it takes everything, students, town, all of us. Jake steps up, furious. So you picked girls to die? He says. Martin nods, slow. Not me, he says. The order chose. I just kept it going. Ellie's stomach churns, rage boiling. Kept it going? She says, voice shaking. You let them die, Jennifer, Mary, me, and you're fine with it? Martin's eyes darken. I wasn't fine, he says. I was there, 68. My sister, she was the first after the pact. I tried to stop it, but it took her anyway. Then it locked on me, said I'd pay if I broke the silence. He pulls up his sleeve, showing scars, old and faded, like her marks. It's in me too, he says. I've been running since. Lily's voice cuts in, sharp. So it's a trade, she says, sketching him now, scars and all. One girl or everyone. Martin nods, grim. That's the deal, he says. You burn it, wake it up, it's not just you anymore. Ellie's head spins. Sarah's mom, the new photos, it's spreading because they fought back. Why me? She asks, hoarse. Martin shrugs, broken. The room, he says. It picks. Always 307. You were there when it turned. She stares, fury and fear crashing together. And the key? She says, holding it up. He hesitates, then points. The slab, he says. Unlocks the anchor, lets it out or shuts it down. But you'll pay to find out which. They're silent, the weight sinking in. Jake's pale, muttering about traps. Lily sketching faster, the key glowing in her lines. Ellie's marks itch, and she knows, Martin's not lying, not all of it. It's real, old, and pissed, and she's the spark that's waking it. Her phone buzzes again, Sarah, frantic, he's here. Help. Ellie's heart stops. Martin's eyes widen. You've pushed it too far, he says, voice trembling. It's not waiting for December now. She grabs the key, turning to Jake and Lily. We're ending this, she says, fierce. But Lily's hands shake, dropping her pencil, and she looks up, pale. I'm not sure, she says, soft. Ellie frowns. Sure of what? she asks. Lily's quiet, too quiet, and the sketch shows Martin, but behind him, a shadow, tall and thin, watching. Episode 14, The Betrayal. Ellie's clutching her phone, Sarah is text, he's here. Help. Blazing in her head as Sunday afternoon fades into a cold, heavy dusk. The lecture hall silent, Martin staring at her with those hollow eyes, Jake pacing behind her, and Lily frozen, her sketch of the shadow behind Martin trembling in her hands. Ellie's marks are alive, a slow burn creeping toward her shoulder, and the keys a hot weight in her pocket. She spins to Jake, voice sharp. We've got to get to Sarah, she says. Now. He nods, grabbing his bag, but Lily's still, too still, and Ellie catches it, something's off. What's wrong? Ellie asks, stepping closer. Lily looks up, eyes dark, and her voice is small. My mom, she says, soft. She was in the order too. Trained me for this. Ellie's stomach drops, a cold fist twisting inside. Trained you? She says, slow and hard. Lily nods, dropping the sketchbook. To keep it going, she says. The pact. I didn't know it was you, not at first. Jake stops dead, staring. You're kidding, he says, voice rising. You're one of them? Lily shakes her head, fast. Not like that, she says. I was supposed to watch, report. But I got in too deep. Ellie's rage flares, hot and blind. You knew? She snaps, stepping into Lily's space. All this time, photos, fire, my name, you were playing us? Lily flinches, hands up. No, Ellie, she says, desperate. I stopped, I swear. I didn't tell her about the key, the slab. But she's here now, Martin called her. Ellie spins to Martin, who's pale, shrinking back. You bastard, she says, low and furious. You set us up. He shakes his head, weak. I had to, he says. It's bigger than me, than all of you. Jake grabs Ellie's arm, pulling her back. We don't have time for this, he says, urgent. Sarah is in trouble, focus. Ellie's trembling, torn between punching Lily and running, but he's right. She glares at Lily, voice cold. You're done, she says. Stay the hell away. Lily's eyes well up, but she nods, stepping back, sketchbook clutched tight. Ellie grabs the key, storming out with Jake, Martin's weak protests fading behind them. The quad's empty, wind biting, and her phone buzzes again. Sarah, one word, hurry. They sprint to the dorm, boots pounding pavement, Ellie's marks searing with every step. The hall's too quiet, lights flickering, and their doors cracked open. Ellie bursts in, heart slamming, and Sarah is there, curled on her bed, shaking, a figure looming over her. It's a woman, older, sharp-faced, in a dark coat, holding a photo. Sarah is, the new one, dated yesterday. She turns, slow, and her eyes lock on Ellie, cold and knowing. You must be Ellie, she says, voice smooth. I'm Claire. Lily's mother. Ellie freezes, key burning in her pocket, as Claire steps closer, photo dangling from her fingers. Sarah whimpers, clutching her blanket. She's got my mom's address, she says, voice breaking. Said I'm next if you don't stop. Ellie's fury surges, but Claire's calm, unshakable. You've made a mess, Ellie, she says. Burning the list, cracking the slab, it's awake now, and it's hungry. Give me the key, and I'll call it off. Jake steps up, fists clenched. Like hell, he says. You're not touching her. Claire smiles, thin and sharp. Brave, she says. But it's not your choice. She pulls another photo, Jake's, dated today, and tosses it at his feet. You're in it too, she says. All of you. Ellie's mind races, Claire's the real deal, order through and through, and Lily's betrayal cuts deeper now. Where's Lily? She demands, voice trembling. Claire shrugs, casual. She ran, she says. Couldn't stomach it. weak, like her father. Ellie's marks flare, and she steps forward, key raised. Back off, she says, fierce. I'm ending this, you're packed, you're monster. Claire laughs, low and dark. You think the key saves you? She says. It opens the cage, lets it out or locks it tighter. Guess wrong, and it's not just you who pays. Sarah lunges, grabbing Claire's arm, desperate. Leave my mom alone. She yells, but Claire shakes her off, hard, sending her crashing into the desk. Ellie moves, fast, reckless, slamming into Claire, pinning her against the wall. The photo drops, and Jake snatches it, tearing it in half. Claire's eyes narrow, breath hot on Ellie's face. You'll regret this, she hisses, then shoves back, slipping free. She's out the door before they can stop her, footsteps fading fast. Ellie's panting, key still in hand, as Sarah scrambles up, sobbing. She's gone, she says, but she'll be back. The room's a wreck, photos torn, desk skewed, and Ellie's phone buzzes. Martin, a voicemail. She plays it, his voice shaky. Claire's not alone. The tunnel's moving, get out now. Her marks burn, the hum kicks up, low and close, and the floorboard trembles, nails popping loose. Jake grabs her arm. It's sealing us in, he says, panicked. Ellie spins, heart racing, and yanks the board up. The hole's there, but the ladder's gone, snapped off, lost in the dark. She's trapped, key in hand, as the hum grows, a roar now, and the tunnel slams shut below, locking her inside with whatever's coming. Episode 15, The Mirror Chamber. Ellie's trapped, the tunnel's entrance sealed shut beneath her, the floorboard slamming down like a guillotine as Sunday night deepens into a cold, suffocating dark. The dorm room's gone, Sarah's cries, Jake's shouts, the hum's roar, all swallowed by silence as she stumbles back, boots scraping dirt. Her flashlight's in her hand, beams shaking, and the keys a burning weight in her pocket, her marks searing up her arm like they're carving her apart. She's alone, the air thick with that sour rot smell, and the walls feel closer, pressing in, alive with intent. She spins, light cutting the dark, and realizes she's not in the photo room or the slab chamber. It's new, deeper, a round space with rough stone walls and a low ceiling that forces her to duck. The hum's here, soft now, a whisper under her skin, and her light catches something ahead, a mirror, tall and cracked, set into the stone like it grew there. Ellie steps closer, breath hitching, and her reflection stares back, pale and sharp, marks glowing faint on her arm. But it's wrong, her eyes are too dark, her mouth too still, and then it moves, stepping out of the glass, a shadow version of her, silent and watching. Ellie staggers back, heart slamming. What the hell are you? She says, voice hoarse, but it doesn't answer, just tilts its head, mimicking her, those black eyes boring in. The hum spikes, and the mirror ripples, more figures spilling out, Jennifer, Mary, Karen, all the girls from the photos, pale and hollow, their marks matching hers. They circle her, slow and deliberate, and Ellie's light flickers, the air growing colder. You're them, she whispers, dread sinking deep. The ones it took. They nod, once, in unison, and Jennifer, or what's left of her, steps forward, voice a rasp. You woke it, she says. Now it's free. Ellie's mind reels, Claire's words, Martin's warning, the key opens the cage. She pulls it out, hands trembling, and the figures flinch, shadows rippling. This? She says, holding it up. This lets it out? Mary Shade nods, slow. Or locks it, she says, faint. Choose right, or we all fall. Ellie's chest tightens, choose right, with no clue, no guide, just a rusted key and a room of ghosts. The mirror pulses, and her shadow self steps closer, hand outstretched. Give it, it says, voice hers but twisted, low and hungry. End it. She hesitates, the hum building, the walls shaking, dirt raining down. The key's hot, almost alive, and she knows, give it up, and it's over, but for who? Her? Them? Crestwood? She thinks of Sarah's mom, Jake's torn photo, Lily's betrayal, everyone she's dragged into this. No, she says, fierce, shoving the key back in her pocket. I'm not your puppet. The shadow self lunges, fast and silent, but Ellie swings her flashlight, cracking it across the face. It staggers, dissolving into smoke, and the others waver, fading back to the mirror. The hum roars, furious, and the chamber trembles, cracks splitting the walls. Ellie bolts to the mirror, slamming the key into a slot at its base, hidden, rusted, but there. It fits, but she pauses, breath ragged. Lock it or let it out. Jennifer's shade whispers, run, echoing her dream, and Ellie twists the key left, against the pull, against the hum scream. The mirror cracks, spidering wide, and the figures scream, sucked back into the glass, their faces blurring into one, hers, then gone. The hum cuts off, the walls still, and Ellie's marks fade, a sudden quiet sinking in. She yanks the key out, panting, and the mirror's just a mirror now, her reflection, sweaty and real, staring back. The chamber shifts, a rumble behind her, and she turns, where the tunnel's sealed, a crack's opened, narrow but enough. She squeezes through, clawing at dirt and brick, her flashlight dying as she crawls. The air lightens, and she's out, tumbling into the photo room's rubble, the ladder snapped but close enough to climb. She hauls herself up, hands bleeding, and collapses in the dorm, floorboard slamming shut behind her. Sarah is there, wide-eyed, Jake beside her, crowbar raised. Ellie! He yells, dropping it, pulling her up. Where were you? Sarah is trembling, grabbing her arm. It sealed you in, she says, voice breaking. We thought, Ellie cuts her off, hoarse. I'm fine, she says, holding up the key. I locked it. I think. The room's quiet, no hum, no flicker, but her phone buzzes, Martin, a text, you've only delayed it. She stares, dread creeping back, and Jake's eyes narrow. Delayed? He says. Not stopped? Ellie shakes her head, grim. It's still there, she says. Under us. Waiting. Lily's sketchbook lies open on the floor, the mirror chamber drawn in sharp lines, her shadow self fading into cracks. Ellie's marks are gone, but her arm feels heavy, like something's left a ghost of itself. She looks at Sarah, then Jake, and knows, they're not out. The tunnel's still hungry, and she's just bought them time. Episode 16, The Loose End. Ellie sprawled on her dorm bed, the key cold and still in her hand, her body aching like she's been dragged through hell and back. It's Monday morning, the campus stirring slow outside, muffled voices, a car horn, but inside, it's a fragile quiet, the kind that feels like it could shatter any second. Sarah is across the room, packing a bag with shaky hands, her eyes darting to the floorboard every few seconds. Jake slumped at the desk, staring at the cracked sketchbook Lily left behind, its final page showing the mirror chamber, shadows bleeding into the edges. Ellie's marks are gone, her arm just skin again, but there's a weight in her chest, a lingering itch she can't scratch. Sarah zips her bag, turning to Ellie, voice soft. I'm out, she says. Going home, my mom needs me. Ellie nods, throat tight. I get it, she says. Be safe. Sarah hesitates, then hugs her, quick and fierce. You too, she says, pulling back. Don't let it win. Then she's gone, the door clicking shut, leaving a hole Ellie feels deep. Jake looks up, grim. She's smart, he says. We should have run too. Ellie shakes her head, fingers tightening on the key. Not yet, she says. I locked it, bought us time. But Martin's text, it's not over. Her phone's dead, battery drained from the tunnel, but she remembers his words, you've only delayed it. Delayed, not stopped. The mirror, the shades, the hum, it's still down there, caged but awake, and she's the one who rattled its bars. Jake flips through the sketchbook, stopping at Lily's last drawing. She knew more than she said, he mutters. Her mom, Claire, she's still out there. Ellie's jaw tightens. Yeah, she says. And Lily's gone. Betrayal's a bitter taste, but she can't shake Lily's final look, scared, guilty, running. They're quiet, the dorm empty without Sarah's noise, when Jake's phone buzzes, a campus alert. West Haven Hall closed for structural issues, he reads, voice flat. Collapses underground. Ellie snorts, bitter. Convenient, she says. Covering their tracks. Jake nods, grim. Martin's pulling strings, or Claire. Maybe both. Ellie stands, pacing, the key heavy in her pocket. We need to finish it, she says. Find the lock again, seal it for good. Jake's eyes widen. You're nuts, he says. It almost ate you last time. She shrugs, fierce. I'm not living with this hanging over me, she says. Are you? He's in, reluctant but solid, and they plan, tools, research, a way back in despite the lockdown. The tunnel's sealed, but there's gotta be another entrance, old maps, maintenance records, something. Ellie's halfway through a rant about breaking into the archives when the lights flicker, just once, and her breath catches. Jake freezes, staring at the floorboard. You hear that? He whispers. She listens, no hum, no footsteps, just silence, but it's wrong, too thick. Then a knock, sharp and loud, on the door. They jump, Ellie grabbing the key like a lifeline. She opens it slow, heart pounding, and it's a girl, freshman, wide-eyed, hauling a duffel bag. Hi, she says, nervous. I'm Kate. They moved me here, 307, since my room flooded. Ellie stares, dread pooling cold. The room's supposed to be empty, she says, voice tight. Kate shrugs, confused. They said it's fine now, she says, stepping in. Ellie and Jake exchange a look, panic, realization. It's starting again, Jake mutters, low. Ellie nods, grim. The pack's not done, it's just picked a new face. Kate's unpacking, oblivious, as Ellie pulls Jake aside. We can't let it, she says, fierce. She's not dying for this. Jake's pale, nodding. Then we move fast, he says. Before it marks her. Ellie glances at the floorboard, sealed tight, and feels it, a faint pulse, not a hum, but something deeper, waiting. She's about to speak when Kate gasps, kneeling by the desk. Hey, she says, curious, holding up a loose floorboard she's pried free, not the tunnels, a different one, hidden under dust. Inside, a photo, Kate's face, fresh, dated June 10, 2025. Her move-in day, 3 months out. Ellie's stomach drops, the key burning in her pocket. It's already got her, she says, hoarse. Kate looks up, confused. What's this? She asks, flipping it over. Kate, June 10, 2025. Ellie grabs it, hands shaking. Nothing, she lies, sharp. Just trash. But Kate's frowning, sensing the lie, and Jake's muttering about cycles and anchors. Ellie's mind races, the mirror's locked, the slab's cracked, but the tunnel's alive, spinning its web again. She shoves the photo in her pocket, turning to Kate, voice steady despite the churn inside. You're good here, she says. We'll be back. They step into the hall, leaving Kate unpacking, and Ellie's grip on the key tightens. It's not over, she says, low and fierce. We delayed it, but it's hungry, picking fresh meat. Jake nods, grim. Then we find Claire, he says. Martin. The source. End it for real. Ellie agrees, but her eyes drift to the floor, to the unseen tunnel below. Kate's photos await beside her own, scratched out but not gone, and the silence feels like a lie, something stirring, something big, and she's still in its sights, whether she runs or fights.